Hello everyone, my name is Nomi. Today we are going to take a look at another horrible case with you. The tragic story of Sania Zahra is one that haunts the hearts of many. At just 20 years old, this vibrant young woman had her life brutally taken by the very person who was meant to love and protect her, her husband. Sania's murder is a heartbreaking reminder of the pervasive issue of domestic violence that affects countless individuals around the world. As we delve into her story, we will uncover the warning signs, the societal challenges, and the devastating impact of domestic abuse that led to this tragic event. Sania Zahra was a bright and ambitious young woman, full of dreams and aspirations. Born into a loving family, she was known for her kindness and determination. Growing up in a close-knit community, Sania had always been encouraged to pursue her education and build a future for herself. However, at the age of 18, she entered into an arranged marriage, a decision that would change the course of her life forever. In the beginning, Sania approached her marriage with hope and optimism. She believed that love could conquer all, and that with patience and understanding, she and her husband could build a happy life together. But as time went on, the reality of her situation began to reveal itself. Behind closed doors, her husband exhibited troubling behavior that would ultimately lead to a tragic and violent end. Domestic violence is a pervasive issue that transcends cultural, economic, and educational boundaries. It affects individuals from all walks of life, and the warning signs are often present long before the violence escalates. For victims like Sania, recognizing these signs can be incredibly challenging, especially when they are conditioned to believe that they must endure their circumstances. Warning signs of domestic violence. 1. Isolation. Abusers often isolate their partners from friends and family, making it difficult for victims to seek help or support. Sania's husband began to limit her interactions with her loved ones, creating a sense of dependency. 2. Verbal abuse. Insults, belittling comments, and threats can be precursors to physical violence. Sania experienced verbal abuse that chipped away at her self-esteem, making her feel trapped and powerless. 3. Controlling behavior. Abusers may exhibit extreme jealousy or possessiveness, monitoring their partner's activities and restricting their freedom. Sania's husband became increasingly controlling, dictating her daily routines and decisions. 4. Physical violence. Any form of physical aggression, from slapping to more severe acts, is a clear warning sign. Sania's husband escalated from verbal to physical abuse, creating a dangerous environment. 5. Manipulation and gaslighting. Abusers often manipulate their partners into doubting their perceptions and feelings. Sania was made to feel responsible for her husband's anger, further entrenching her in the cycle of abuse. Challenges victims face. Victims of domestic violence face numerous challenges when seeking help. Fear of retaliation. Many victims fear that seeking help will provoke further violence from their abuser. Lack of resources. Access to shelters, legal aid, and counseling services can be limited, especially in rural or underserved areas. Social stigma. Societal stigma surrounding domestic violence can prevent victims from speaking out, as they fear judgment or disbelief from their communities. Economic dependence. Many victims are financially dependent on their abuser, making it difficult to leave the relationship. Sania's relationship with her husband began like many others, filled with hope and the promise of a bright future. However, as the months passed, the reality of her situation became increasingly grim. The early signs of trouble were subtle, but they quickly escalated into a pattern of abuse that would ultimately lead to her tragic end. The relationship dynamics. 1. Initial courtship. Sania and her husband met through family connections, and their courtship was marked by traditional customs and expectations. Initially, he appeared charming and attentive, winning Sania's affection. 2. The shift. After the wedding, Sania's husband began to change. The charming facade faded, revealing a possessive and controlling personality. Sania's dreams of a loving marriage began to crumble as she faced the harsh reality of her husband's behavior. 3. Escalation of abuse. As the abuse intensified, Sania found herself trapped in a cycle of fear and despair. She tried to reach out for help, but her pleas often went unheard. Family members urged her to be patient, believing that her husband would eventually change. 4. Isolation from family. Her husband's controlling nature led to her isolation from friends and family. Sania felt increasingly alone, believing that she had no one to turn to for support. 5. The breaking point. The situation reached a breaking point when Sania's husband became physically violent. The abuse escalated to the point where her life was in danger, yet she felt powerless to escape. The day of the murder. On the tragic day of her murder, Sania's husband unleashed a brutal attack. The details of that day are harrowing and heartbreaking. Reports indicate that he stabbed her multiple times in a fit of rage, leaving her to fight for her life. Despite her efforts to defend herself, Sania succumbed to her injuries, leaving her family and community in shock. Impact on family and community. The aftermath of Sania's murder sent shockwaves through her family and community. Her loved ones were left grappling with the loss of a vibrant young woman whose life was cut short by violence. The community, too, was forced to confront the reality of domestic violence and the urgent need for change. 1. Grief and anguish. Sania's family was devastated by her loss. They struggled to comprehend how someone they loved could be taken from them so violently. 2. Calls for justice. In the wake of her murder, Sania's family became vocal advocates for justice. They demanded that her husband be held accountable for his actions and that the community take a stand against domestic violence. 3. Community awareness. Sania's tragic story sparked conversations about domestic violence within her community. Local organizations began to host workshops and seminars aimed at educating individuals about the signs of abuse and the resources available for victims. The shocking details of Sania's murder and the subsequent legal actions taken against her husband revealed the harsh realities of the justice system's handling of domestic violence cases. The murder investigation. 1. Immediate aftermath. Following Sania's murder, law enforcement began an investigation into the circumstances surrounding her death. Evidence was collected, and witnesses were interviewed. 2. Legal proceedings. Sania's husband was arrested and charged with murder. The legal proceedings that followed were fraught with tension, as the prosecution sought to prove his guilt, while the defense attempted to cast doubt on the evidence. 3. Public outcry. The case garnered significant media attention, with many in the community rallying behind Sania's family. Advocacy groups began to raise awareness about the need for systemic changes in how domestic violence cases are handled. 4. Trial and sentencing. The trial revealed the disturbing details of Sania's life and the abuse she endured. Ultimately, her husband was convicted of murder and sentenced to a lengthy prison term. But for many, this was not enough. The community demanded more significant changes to prevent future tragedies. Sania Zahra's story is a painful reminder of the devastating impact of domestic violence and the urgent need for change. Her life, cut short by the very person who should have cherished and protected her, serves as a wake-up call to all of us to take action against this pervasive issue. Key points of this case. 1. Warning signs. Recognizing the warning signs of domestic violence is crucial for prevention. Education and awareness can empower individuals to seek help before it's too late. 2. Challenges for victims. Victims like Sania face numerous challenges when seeking help, including fear of retaliation, lack of resources, and social stigma. 3. Community responsibility. It is imperative for communities to come together to support victims of domestic violence and advocate for systemic changes in the justice system. 4. The importance of advocacy. Sania's family and community have become advocates for change, highlighting the need for better resources and support systems for victims of domestic violence. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out for help. There are organizations and resources available to support victims and provide them with the tools they need to build a safer, healthier life. Together, we can work to prevent tragedies like Sania's and ensure that no one has to suffer in silence. Consider supporting organizations that work to prevent domestic violence and provide resources for victims. Donations, volunteering, and spreading awareness can make a significant difference in the lives of those affected by domestic abuse. We encourage you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Have you or someone you know faced similar challenges? Your voice matters, and by sharing your story, you can help others feel less alone in their struggles. Let Sania's legacy be one of hope and resilience, a reminder that we must stand together to end domestic violence. By raising awareness, supporting victims, and advocating for change, we can create a future where no one has to live in fear of their partner. Thank you for joining us in this important conversation.